Let's go. Welcome to the Fearless Pricing Revolution. My name is Filip Fucic, and if you don't know me by now, I'm a pricing mentor based in Croatia, specializing in pricing advice for expert service providers, mostly independents and small agencies. I've been doing this for over 5 years, working with more than 200 people in 34 countries. My clients see an average price increase of 40%, so yes, I'm sure my approach works. But let's start with my mistakes. So I had certain ideas about what my work was worth and had to go through 4 significant price increases before I reached a point where clients actually had to think about it. Early on, everyone that recognized the need for my advice, which is not everybody, but once they realized it, they said yes immediately, which sounds great, except that meant that I was underpricing and burning out trying to handle too many clients. It took me a while to understand that. Now, the usual advice in this situation is to use value-based pricing and focus on case studies. That's fine advice. But we'll move past it and focus on what people rarely talk about here. So, mistake number 2, thinking I had no competitors. I believed being a specialist meant that people have no one really to compare me with, right? Wrong. And acting on that belief cost me time and frustration and a lot of fear. And the usual advice here is to focus on a niche and highlight your USPs, your unique selling
Stand
proposition.
there as well.
Sorry, could you mute yourself, please? Ah, hi. Um, and so the advice here is to do USPs,
Please.
focusing on a niche. I'm sure you never heard of that. I'm sarcastic. Uh, Mistake number 3 is assuming while my value was obvious. After a while, I knew my advice was valuable. I assumed that it would just be clear to clients, and it wasn't. It took me years to reach a point where talking about my value has the clients understand nearly enough about what they're actually getting. And standard advice says focus on benefits, not features, and collect testimonials. Again, not terrible advice, but it's 50 years old and nowhere near enough to give you a real advantage. So, okay, I made a lot of mistakes and the standard advice is lacking. What makes this a rebellion? Well, there are service providers and then there are expert service providers. It's like a difference between a duck and a swan. Most business advice is designed for ducks. Commoditized services, sorry, where differentiation is about marketing, not expertise. So we have the ugly duckling problem because all of the general advice that I mentioned is mostly meant for ducks, for the usual case, for the commoditized services. Your service is not like that. My service is not like that. We are swans. And the rebellion here is to start talking about this difference and what actually works for us and what doesn't, even if it's good advice for car washes and nail salons. Because trust isn't a commodity. It can't be sold as if it was. And expertise isn't something that you can crowdsource or automate with AI. Yes, some parts of superficial parts of our work may be easier with AI, but the actual advice it gives is mostly crap. And the deeper value remains completely untouched. And what I've seen is if we do or when we do challenge the standard advice, business advice, we're just often told we're doing it wrong. Our perspectives, our experiences are ignored, leaving us unable to deliver our best work. And I've had enough of that. I really have. So, without much further ado, I'll tell you the quiet part on the value of expertise. So, why isn't focusing on a niche and USPs enough? Because differentiation isn't just about standing out, it's about standing out in ways that matter to specific buyers. And that means learning how to speak their language first. Because among colleagues, it's enough to be right. Among clients, being right only matters after they buy. They don't fully understand your value until they experience it. It's what the economists call experiential good. Value is only seen after experiencing it. So they don't buy your experience from you at the beginning. At the beginning, they're the only thing that they know how to buy is confidence. Confidence that they don't have in solving their problem. And that changes everything. And this is why many traditional sales tactics simply fail for us. So discounts are ineffective. Going rates make very little sense because unlike for a car wash where you can objectively say if the car is clean or not clean, the question of how much for a car wash makes sense without additional context. Our services are not like that. How much for consulting? How much for a computer program? How much for a design? It doesn't make sense at all. Our services are not switches, they're dials. It functions differently. So the rebellion here is addressing clients. Well, maybe blindness is harsh, but definitely myopia. So they're very, very, very short-sighted. They don't understand what's actually going on. And that needs to be said out loud and addressed. We need to share experience on how to overcome it because it's a real problem, not just for us, for the clients as well. The second thing, value-based pricing is powerful, but difficult to execute in every situation. So, and gathering case studies, of course, is great advice if it's 1964. The reality is that clients will only pay for the value they understand, which is often not enough because they don't know enough about our field to actually understand what they're getting. If they did know enough about our field to actually understand what they're getting, they wouldn't be clients. They would know enough about our fields to be experts themselves and wouldn't need us at all. It's something that I really like talking about, but I can't do much more about it right now. Second thing, as a consequence of this, most clients can only grasp quantifiable results, which is fine if you sell something like pricing strategy like I do. But most people, most advisors, yeah, good luck getting hard numbers to prove your worth. And the results are not the only value driver. There are 15 other value drivers that clients actually want to pay for, far beyond just ROI. I can't name them all here today, at least not right now. My second book will cover those in depth, but I'm happy to answer questions about it later. So you cannot do value-based pricing as a one size fits all formula. You can't just calculate it once and put it on your website. And the usual thing of sending prices via email is a death sentence. Without context, clients just compare your number to competitors without understanding the difference. And this is not to shame them. We can't all be experts in everything that we need to buy. It's not possible. But because they don't understand the context, they just take your number and compare it to somebody else's number whose service could be completely inadequate and say, oh, yours is higher. Goodbye. The rebellion here is talking about things that work for us, that maybe don't are not a thing in classical selling. We're not selling. We're actually seeking fit. Because bad fit clients are much worse for us than for classical sales. In classical sales, well, it's easy to sell when somebody else has to do it, right? Maybe you have that experience of somebody sold your service to somebody who's a bad fit and now you have to deal with it. You're the expert, right? Um, there's differences between selling and fit seeking, and we need to talk about it. And one more thing, right? Yes, focus on benefits over features. Sure. Gather testimonials. But here's the real issue. When selling a device, benefits vary from client to client. The only way to communicate them effectively is through consultative selling. That's one thing that is usually not said out loud. And then people try to sell it like potatoes or nail polishing, and it doesn't work. Second thing is, clients want to pick you based on your experience, but only want to pay for engagement. That makes no sense. More time doesn't always mean better service. While 5 hours of waiting tables is worth more than one in most cases, expert advice just doesn't scale like that. You you can do more for a client in 30 minutes than an amateur could do in weeks, or that GPT could do ever. The challenge is getting clients to realize that. But in order for that to happen, we first have to accept that this is happening. And finally, to work effectively, clients must see us as partners, not vendors. Otherwise, they try to dictate scope without understanding what's required. And just like I wouldn't try to diagnose my own medical condition, this doesn't work. So I can describe symptoms to my doctor and then trust the expert to tell me what needs to be done and when. The same applies to our work. So you, my friends, are not waiters. You're surgeons, and you should be seen like that. So let's stop pretending that the customer is always right. Because even that is a very clipped, severely clipped version of the original saying, which was customer is always right in matters of taste. And we are not talking about matters of taste. The client, in order to even make an informed decision about who do they want to work with, needs us to correct this idea in their head. Otherwise, they're not making an informed decision and they will hurt themselves first and then us. Okay. These are the three heretical thoughts that I want to for us to start talking about, to start discussing about. Because the services market just isn't one thing. It's at least two. One side offers services like candy, so interchangeable, low risk, and based on preference. The other side, where we operate, is much more like medicine. Highly specialized, dangerous to mix up, and rare. This isn't about self-importance. I'm not trying to stroke your ego or mine. It's a fact. Look, I can say for some services, yeah, I'll just do it myself. So I can wait the tables, I can wash the car. Sure, I'll be more ineffective or less effective than a professional, but give me six weeks, maybe 6 months, and I'll be fine. Can I be as effective as you in 6 weeks? How about 6 months in what you do? No chance. If I tried doing the same thing, so translating into Korean by myself or planning a major heart surgery if I've never done it before, that will not end well. There are services and there are expert services. And we should stop acting as if they were all the same. Final thing. Some of us are technically competitors, but not really. There are millions of clients that I'll never serve. Although I served hundreds, I'll never serve millions. I won't even aspire to. So other people who do exactly what I do, probably with other specializations, they're welcome. I'm happy that they're here. More educated clients overall help us all. So the other side is not the other people doing what we do. There's so few of us. that know what we do, right? The other side is the clients, the outdated business education and market norms built for other people. I usually say we are the red-haired, left-handed stepchildren of the market. Nothing is built with us in mind. Nothing is written with us in mind. And I'm sick of it. So, okay, three things that we can do: vocalize, vote, and vow. By vocalize, I mean share your experiences. I'm launching a new LinkedIn newsletter for deeper discussions. So it'll be at least once a week. I invite you to engage and let's challenge the outdated norms together. Second thing is, by vote, I mean point me at stuff. I have more than enough ideas about what to write for. I already have a standard email-based newsletter that I wrote 400 articles for, and I have great engagement, and it's all good. But I need to know, what do you want to know first? Um, let's start sharing and leveraging each other's experiences, even failures, like I did. If we do that, we can steer the discussion in a more actionable direction, which is the idea. And finally, take some action. Whether it's speaking up or experimenting with new pricing or just shifting your mindset, do something. As engagement grows, I'll launch a private online community with no clients present so we can build a real knowledge base and learn from each other and push back. So the vow part is just to take a step, to do something, learn and help others learn. And if you can't share your experiences publicly, that's also okay. Message me privately. I'll ensure your insights are shared while protecting your anonymity and that of your client. Because the world looks at us like this. We're on the ground floor, and there's these huge companies, huge clients, bunches of people whose ignorance about the things that they need from us suffocates us in our interests as well as their own. And although they would be much better off helping us help them, they can't do that by themselves. There's never going to be a union for people as diverse as independent experts. But that doesn't mean that we can't help each other in other ways, mainly by being frank about the problems and sharing information. And I have been sharing actionable information for years now to jumpstart a change. And most of you know it. So that's it. I'd like to thank you all for coming. And I really do believe that we're in this together. So let's begin. Now, I'd like to ask you um, to tell me in chat or however you like. Firstly, do you have any questions about this? And secondly, what would be the most valuable thing to share first? So you heard about a slew of things today about value communication, about getting clients to see the value, about pricing in different ways from like more is better based. So hourly pricing or per product pricing and stuff like that. What would be the most valuable place where we can start?
Hi. So basically, in my opinion, the biggest and most important point is in educating the clients. I think that's an ongoing challenge. It doesn't matter if you work for yourself as an independent expert or if you're part of a corporation or a company. The biggest challenge is always finding a good way to communicate and educate the clients. My biggest problem is when working with small and medium companies, talking to founders who started basically as engineers
Mm.
who have forcefully been shifted to a more business oriented role,
Mm.
and now they basically think of themselves as not just jack of all trades but also masters of all trades.
Okay.
And it's always a tricky situation how to communicate with them without stepping on their ego. I don't mean to disrespect them, but basically somebody who has been independent for 15 years has hired, I don't know, 200 people. 200 is not a lot compared to a big corporation, but they still have a sense of pride. So it's basically that part is how to educate them and how to communicate with them is always the most challenging and the most interesting to me.
Okay.
And my
So
method there is basically it will maybe sound rude, but I try to approach a friendly slash fatherly approach to basically help them say what they have trouble with and basically help them feel like they came up with certain ideas. So basically, you have to take a step back using that approach and let them lead. But that creates issues about the key topic that you covered. It creates issues in value and pricing because then they see themselves as basically more valuable and don't see the support that you gave them initially.
yes. Um, so if if they see you as just operating on what they told you, so I'm hiring you because you have more time than I do. I could do it, I just have better things to do. You don't, so I'm going to hire you, right? I'm going to tell you everything that needs to be done and you just do it. That that is not your role. Um, because if that was true, anybody could do it, or anybody with a 6 week training could do it. Um, but as long as they are in that mindset, they're not interested in paying for anything else. So they first have to come in a situation where they realize that their confidence is where, however high it is below their problem level. So this is something that I often share. So let's say my back hurts a little sometimes. I'm usually unless I see it as a big problem, I'm not willing to pay for a skilled chiropractor to actually do something about it. Now, maybe take a massage or something, tell them to focus on this area or that, and that's it, right? I can handle this. My confidence level, in other words, is above what I perceive it to be a problem. And then one morning, it hurts so bad I can't walk. Now, either my confidence drops because of it or my perception of the problem grows, doesn't really matter. My confidence is now below this. I can't solve this myself. At this moment, I need an expert, and I know it. And there's no choice about this. But it's the first moment where I will tolerate somebody else telling me what to do. Otherwise, don't tell me how to sit. I've been sitting for 40 years. I know how to sit. I won't pay anybody to tell me how to sit. I know how that goes, right? Because that's what chiropractors do. They basically tell you things that you already know. Yeah, until the problem grows or you have a reason for your confidence to drop, and now you're ready for an expert. And now you don't want a cheap expert because it doesn't seem like a small problem. And if somebody is cheap, there's probably a reason why they're cheap. I need somebody expensive enough to trust that they know what they're talking about. Because if they were expensive and not good, they would be out of business, right? Cool. So this is the challenge, but it can be solved. And it can be solved by worrying the client, not unduly, duly worrying the client. Because if I simplify it even more, let's say that you're in a foreign land and you would like to walk across a big meadow until the other side of the mountain. Okay, and you're searching for a guide, and some little kid said he would guide you over. He's local, and his price is like 5 times smaller than yours. I have no reason then to choose you, right? Until you tell me that this is a minefield, because it is a minefield. You show me a sign that this is a minefield, or you show me a mine, And I don't have to see every mine. I just need to see the first one. Do you think I'm going back to the kid? No, because now I'm really worried about what would happen if I chose that kid. Because he either doesn't know that this is a minefield, which is horrifying, or he knows and but didn't bother to tell me that, which is worse, right? So you need to worry the client. Before you start dispensing advice, he will not listen. They will not listen to your advice until they think they have something to worry about. And still, it's a challenge to getting them to listen. And I know that. But I've discovered where their most vulnerable point is when they listen the most. And that is when they try to figure out the differences in your offers. So first thing you do is you never offer one thing. You offer at least two options. And these two options need to be qualitatively different, not just quantitatively different. So not just numbers. So offers doesn't mean we can do this in 6 days or 18 days or 50 days. And 6 days is the most expensive per hour, but the smallest overall, and blah 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 blah. Right? No, those are not options because you're basically telling him, do you want me to solve your problem in 6 hours or 18 hours or 50 hours? Six, thanks. And especially if it's the least money involved. Of course, nobody would choose anybody else, anything else. So you need to give them, okay, so option A is you pay me by the hour, fine, but then you're taking the risk that this boils over. That if there's complications involved, and I said it would be 100 hours and it's going to be 200, that's on you. Option B is I take that risk. You pay me not 200, but let's say 185. So 85% more than I thought it might there, and I'll take the risk. However long this takes, you only pay 185, but you always pay 185. And then I take the risk. And this is when they say, oh, there's risk. Oh, really? There's risk. And I'm taking it usually. Maybe the other option is better. This is a real technique, by the way, called 185. You can Google it. It's not mine, but it works. And sometimes people's clients don't learn it at first. They say, no, 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 let's do it by hour, per hour. We always done it like that. Our purchasing department, blah, 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 blah. And then the whole project costs double than it should have. And they could have saved money by just listening to you. And what usually happens if you just say, okay, let's do it by hour, and you don't offer anything else, they blame you. They offload the blame to you. But because you offered this at the beginning, they don't no longer have that option. It's in an email somewhere. And they pay you and they come back to you. This happened to me and this happened to clients. And they say, okay, but for this second project, could we go with the you guaranteeing stuff? And thus we learn. That's how it happens. Not always, not in all cases, in more cases than you would think. So you need to worry them. But it won't hurt. It won't work if you just say, "Oh, come on, come here, sit, and I'll show you why you need to pay me more." It won't work like that. They won't listen to you. Why would they? But they will listen in differences in options, and then they will ask questions, and then they will make their own conclusions, which you can drive, and that's how they learn. I hope that's helpful. Um, right. Yeah. Thank you. So I can talk about I can talk about that the first few issues of the newsletter. It's a very common question, and I mean by this point many of them are. Um, but I'm always interested in hearing. So when's the pinch point? And um, it's always a problem when you have clients who are used to working with outside people as if they are, employees light, employees with less benefits. Um, and there needs to be some kind of a way in which you answer the question, even if it's not explicitly asked, although engineers might explicitly ask you this. What can you tell me about my business that I don't already know? I've been in this business for 20 years. What can you tell me about this that I don't already know? And um, it's a challenge wherever you go. And this is the basic question that all advisors must basically never stop answering if you want to be paid for advice. Because people sometimes say, how do you get paid for advice? What's advice? What am I actually getting? Or what are your clients actually getting? Um, and there are ways in which we can um, mitigate the idea that we have no stakes. So I can just come and tell him whatever, and if it doesn't work, then I say oops, and I get paid. No. So the way I work is I have a fixed price, and I'm done with the when the client actually manages to sell at the price point which I indicated, which has to be at least 15% higher, but like I said, average is 40% higher. Once a client sells, they will be able to sell again even without me because the first time is tricky. Once you do it, somebody asks you, who's going to pay that price? The last guy did. That's a completely different situation. So my solutions need to be validated by an actual market before I'm done. And sometimes that's 2 months, sometimes it's three, sometimes it's four. I don't care. I don't get paid more because I worked more. Because to be frank, the client doesn't get more value just because I worked more. And if I could teach a client everything that they need to know about uh, 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 value communication, pricing, and negotiation, which all three has to be true for them to actually make the advice actionable. If I could do it in an hour, I would still charge the full price, and the client would be happy for me to do. It's just um, so me working less would not be a problem because then the client could immediately go off and use it. So it's not that fast. It's currently about 20 hours of work. It's still not horrible, but and I'm getting better, and I'm so the period is getting shorter, and I'm getting the same amount of money for it, so I'm making more and more. But if somebody takes exceptionally long, fine, I'm not charging them more because this was a tough case. It's fine. I do have stakes in it, and because of this, my incentive with my client is completely aligned. I want to be done as soon as possible. They want to be done as soon as possible. As soon as possible, they want to be able to charge more. So we are both working toward the same goal. So if I something doesn't work and I say, okay, let's repeat this part because I think this needs to be redone. They just do it because they're not thinking, hmm, do we really need to do this or this guy just wants more money? No, I'm not getting any more money. Suggesting more work would be against my interest if I wasn't trying to get them to the finish line. So they just do it and they listen to me and then they have results. And this is much, much better than when I was charging per hour. That's a lesson that I needed a long time to learn. And I'm really looking forward to translating this to others. So I want to be respectful of her time. I promised this was going to be a half an hour thing. Thank you all for coming. If you have questions or suggestions, please send them to me via LinkedIn. Let me just uh, yeah, cool. The newsletter will start from next week. I also have other channels and a very short newsletter that some of you have been on for years, and thank you very much for your engagement. Um, there's my stuff all over if you want to check it out, and I really do hope that we can do something together about this. Bye.